So with Judges chapter 13, we're going to get into a story that most people who've read the Bible or understand the Bible are very familiar with. We're getting into the story of Samson. So some fun stuff we get to talk about today. So let's jump in. So of course, Israel is in Philistine bondage. They've been in bondage for 40 years. So again, they're on that part of the pride cycle where they're finally repenting and being humble. And now God is going to prepare a savior for them. An angel comes to Manoah's wife, promises a son who will begin to deliver Israel. That's Samson. The angel comes again. He ascends in a flame from the altar. Samson is born, and the Spirit of the Lord moves upon him. So some fun stuff we get to learn today. Now, one thing to get into as we're starting this, okay, we're somewhere around, if I remember right, around 1075 AD. Is around where we're at. So just to give you some context here, okay, we're finishing up the 20th dynasty in Egypt. So we're just about to get into the third intermediary period. If you're familiar with Egyptian history, this is, Egypt is in decline. They're not a world power. They're just another country among all the other countries in the area. They are, most of the pharaohs in this time are not widely known, and oftentimes we see where Lower Egypt and Upper Egypt kind of divided again or were split, had some struggles there. The capital of Egypt has changed. This is also getting to the end of the Bronze Age. We're seeing the decline of the Bronze Age where they're going to start moving into iron, using iron as a more a tool and a weapon more. So we see a change in the metallurgy and how they use metal for building, for fighting, and other things like that. So the Iron Age is about to come forward here pretty soon. The Hittite Empire is declining, and it's almost nearly gone by this point. And that was kind of a big area up in present-day Turkey. You know, that part of Mesopotamia was a pretty big deal. We're seeing declines in other areas as well. You know, Greece, Crete, those areas that are the pre-Roman areas are doing fine. They're doing pretty good. They've recovered from some disasters, some volcanic disasters and things that have happened in the past, but they're doing okay. The nation of Assyria is going to come forward here in a little while as well. So we're a little early on Assyria, but it's bubbling. The initial things are starting to come together. So that's kind of an idea of what else is going on in the world at this time, that these things are happening in Israel. So to give you a little bit of more information on here, I want to give some ideas. There was a great context that Josephus gives us in his book, Antiquities of the Jews. Now, if you're not familiar with Josephus, he is a Jewish historian, and he lived at the time of Jesus. He was part of I believe the Pharisees, actually. He kind of hung out and palled around with the Pharisees during Jesus's time. So he was present during some of the things that happened in Jesus's life. Excuse me. So because he was around that meridian of time, you know, right into the early part of the AD period, he's a lot closer to these experiences than we are. So he sometimes has some perspective of being from a group, you know, being from a time period that is a lot closer to these ancient Israel times. So what he said about this time, he said, after this, the Israelites grew effeminate as to fighting any more against their enemies, but applied themselves to the cultivation of the land, which producing them great plenty and riches, they neglected the regular disposition of their settlement, and indulged themselves in luxury and pleasures. Nor were they any longer careful to hear the laws that belonged to their political government. Whereupon God was provoked to anger and put them in mind first how contrary to his directions they had spared the Canaanites. And after that, how the Canaanites, as opportunity served, used them very barbarously. So he's talking about how, you know, when Israel gave up their wanderings and the fightings and all the stuff that they had kind of gotten used to doing, and they started to actually occupy the land and they cultivated the land, they kind of gave up fighting. They gave up having a standing army, having that ability to defend themselves. they had prosperity. Then eventually they lost that. They got wicked, they got prideful in what they're doing, and they lost that. So it's important for us to just get some context in this to help us out. So they get taken over by the countries who are prepared to fight. Not saying that fighting is the ideal way to go. The ideal way to go, of course, is to keep the commandments of God and let him do the fighting for you and help protect you in things. But there's nothing in the scriptures that say that it's a bad thing to learn how to defend yourself. Be prepared in the event of a situation. So just some important points that we have in there. All right, so let's jump into this chapter. Verse 1, and the children of Israel did evil again in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord delivered them into the hand of the Philistines 40 years. So they went back in. This is nearly a generation now of people growing up in bondage to the Philistines. That doesn't necessarily mean it's the same as when they're in bondage in Egypt, but they were occupied by the Philistines, and so the Philistines probably taxed them. The Philistines probably took what they wanted from them and made their lives hard. The Philistines became wealthier. The Israelites did not, because the Philistines were taking of the riches of the Israelites. Most likely what was going on. Verse 2, there was a certain man of Zorah, of the family of the Danites, or the tribe of Dan, whose name was Manoah, and his wife was barren and bare not. Now, something that's important to think about here, the Zorah, okay, so we're talking about the mother and father of Samson. Zorah, which is the home of Samson, had been assigned originally to the tribe of Judah, if you look back in Joshua 15, verse 33, but was later inhabited by the tribe of Dan, which had been unable to take over the land assigned to it as its inheritance. So the tribe of Dan was not successful in getting the people out that were in the land that they were given for an inheritance. So they ended up kind of falling back into the other tribes to say, hey, we're not successful at taking our lands. Can we take some of your lands? And so they gave this, was originally an area of Judah, was given to Dan later, basically, just to give you some ideas there. All right, now verse 3, and the angel of the Lord appeared unto the woman and said unto her, behold, now thou art barren, and bearest not, but thou shalt conceive and bear a son. Now, one thing I want to point out here is something important about the life of Samson. I want you to pay attention to the parallels of Samson and Jesus Christ. There's a lot of parallels that happen here. Okay, this is a good, important metaphor for us to learn more lessons about from the life of Samson. So an angel appears to his mom, who's without child. She's not pregnant at all. She's saying barren, meaning not having children. And she gets this miraculous vision from an angel saying, you're going to have a son. Okay, not unlike the visitation of an angel to Mary. Okay, verse 4, now therefore beware, I pray thee, and drink not wine nor strong drink, and eat not any unclean thing. So the angel is telling her, you need to eat healthy, and you need to be careful what you drink. Be careful what you put in your body to keep yourself healthy, because you are going to conceive a son here. Verse 5, for lo, thou shalt conceive and bear a son, and no razor shall come on his head, for the child shall be a Nazirite unto God from the womb, and he shall begin to deliver Israel out of the hand of the Philistines. So not just any son, but an important son. He's a Nazirite. A Nazirite is a type of person that was set aside. Basically, their life was dedicated to the service of God. And that's what they were. So usually they don't have children. They don't get involved with like sexual things. They maintain virginity. They read the scriptures a lot. They do a lot of prayer, administering, stuff like that. Rather than hanging out and going doing other stuff. Oftentimes, Nazirites are also exempt from fighting, from going to war, to keep themselves spiritually clean and mentally in the attitude of prayer all the time. What's interesting is the primary meaning of the Hebrew verb nazar, which is part of this, is to separate. Okay, hence the Nazir or Nazirite is the separated or consecrated or devoted. That's from Hastings' Dictionary of the Bible. So they're set apart. They're made different from everybody else, basically, and exclusively for God. If you remember, it wasn't that many chapters ago that I believe it was Gideon, had his daughter. She was dedicated to, in a way, be like a Nazirite. She would not have any children, basically. And we've heard that word before in, if we go back into, I believe it's in Numbers, Leviticus or Numbers, they talk a little bit about a Nazirite as well. Again, somebody set aside, not just to be like a priest, but their whole life is dedicated to God and set aside to do those things. And so Samson is supposed to be this type of a person, set aside to not be utilized in any other way other than to do what God's will, basically. So verse 6, now remember, you can kind of see the similarities, because Mary, you'll have the Son of God himself. He'll have a purpose to come and save Israel and save all people from sin and wickedness. Then the woman came and told her husband, this is verse 6, saying, a man of God came unto me, and his countenance was like the countenance of an angel of God, very terrible. But I asked him not whence he was, neither told he me his name. But he said unto me, behold, thou shalt conceive and bear a son, and now drink no wine and strong drink, neither eat any unclean thing. For the child shall be a Nazirite to God from the womb to the day of his death. So this is her telling her husband, I just had this grand vision. So here's the husband. Now, verse 8, then Manoah entreated the Lord and said, O my Lord, let the man of God which thou didst send come again unto us and teach us what we shall do unto the child that shall be born. So he's praying, saying, God, send the messenger again to give us more instructions on this. I wouldn't be surprised if part of this was he wanted to see the angel as well and have that visitation. Verse 9, and God hearkened to the voice of Manoah. And the angel of God came again unto the woman as she sat in the field, but Manoah, her husband, was not with her. So the angel comes back to the wife, but not Manoah. And I'm sure part of this is, again, he secretly wanted to see the angel. He secretly wanted to have that angelic visitation. But that's not part of the plan. The plan is for the angel to talk to the mother and the wife, basically. So, verse 10, and the woman made haste and ran and showed her husband and said unto him, behold, the man hath appeared unto me that came unto me the other day. And Manoah arose and went after his wife and came to the man and said unto him, art thou the man that spakest unto the woman? And he said, I am. So here's what's interesting is, so she runs, gets her husband. She's like, I'll be right back. Goes and gets her husband. He comes out in the field. There's a guy standing there. This is the man that was to talk with them. He has a countenance that is, she called it terrible. So probably really bright, really, probably the feelings you feel inside are intense, almost a little scary, like, oh my gosh, who the heck is this? This is not a normal person showing up in a normal way, type of a concept. So verse 12, and Manoah said, now let thy words come to pass. How shall we order the child, and how shall we do unto him? So he's going, okay, I get it. What are we supposed to do now? You tell us, what are we supposed to do with this child that we're going to have? Verse 13, and the angel of the Lord said unto Manoah, of all that I said unto the woman, let her beware. She may not eat of anything that cometh of the vine, neither let her drink wine or strong drink, nor eat any unclean thing. All that I commanded her, let her observe. So he's basically just saying, reiterating, this is, she needs to keep herself clean and healthy and things. And realize this is a Nazirite that's coming out of her. The Nazirites don't drink things of the vine. They don't have strong drink. They don't eat unclean things. They have a very strict diet as part of their strict spiritual regimen as well. So her body's being prepared as well to have a Nazirite come forth. Because if he can't truly be a full Nazirite if his mom didn't keep the Nazirite principles physically as well. So she's going to keep that. Now verse 15, and Manoah said unto the angel of the Lord, I pray thee, let us detain thee until we shall have made ready a kid for thee. And the angel of the Lord said unto Manoah, though thou detain me, I will not eat of thy bread. If thou wilt offer a burnt offering, thou must offer it unto the Lord. For Manoah knew not that he was an angel of the Lord. So Manoah is saying, wait, let us, can you stay with us until we can get everything situated to have a child come? Because there's preparations and things to do this. And he says, I will stay for a little while, but I'm not going to eat bread. So because usually, oh, we're going to have a feast, or we're going to offer offerings and things. So he's like, it's not about me. If you have an offering you want to offer, you offer it to God. Okay. It's not uncommon for them to pray to God to receive blessings of fertility, basically, to do an offering for fertility. And you got to realize that a lot of Israel had a struggle with this because they always worshiped Baal or Ashtaroth, and Ashtaroth was a fertility god. So it wasn't uncommon to do things to try to encourage fertility to happen. But he's saying, no, you need to offer things to God, not me. I'm not here to deal with that. You need to offer all your obligations to God. Because he kind of thought this guy was God, but this is an angel of the Lord, not the Lord himself. So this is an important thing to understand here, is sometimes Jesus Christ comes down, or Jehovah in the Old Testament comes down as himself. He comes down personally to talk to the people and do things. We see that with Abraham and Jacob and some of the ancient prophets. But there also is this concept, this idea called divine investiture of authority, to where an angel is given authority to act in behalf of God. So it's not God himself coming down, but an angel who has authority to act in the name of God that's coming down, basically. So verse 17, and Manoah said unto the angel of the Lord, what is thy name, that when thy sayings come to pass, we may do thee honor? So he wants the name of this person so he can say, the angel so-and-so gave us this, gave us this information, those kinds of things, and to honor him and to almost, I wouldn't say worship the angel, but to give that honor and praise to this angel. Verse 18, and the angel of the Lord said unto him, why askest thou thus after my name, seeing it is secret? Oh, this is interesting. The name is secret. Clark, in his Bible commentary, said this: the angel does not say that his name was secret, but hupali, which it is wonderful, the very character that is given to Jesus Christ. So he didn't actually say it's a secret. I can't tell you my name. It's a secret. What, according to Clark, he said the translation really means it is wonderful. It is a great name. And this is, if you see Isaiah chapter 9, wonderful is also one of the titles that Isaiah attributes to Jesus Christ. The wonderful, the mighty God, counselor, those kinds of things. So he's saying that this isn't necessarily Jesus himself coming down to do this, but again, an angel with that divine investiture of authority to do it. So he's like, why do you need to know my name? Because it is wonderful. That's kind of, he gave to Moses the name I am, and now he's given his name wonderful. So Christ is known by a lot of names. And if you want to know Christ more, I absolutely recommend using the Bible dictionary and the topical guide. Go through all of those names and titles that Christ has been given, and you'll be amazed at what you'll learn about him. I can guarantee you by the time you're done studying all of those and looking up all those scripture references and writing down what does that mean for why did he get this title? What does that teach us about him? And what does that mean for my life? By the time you get done, you'll be amazed at how close to Christ you will feel. It's powerful, absolutely powerful. If you have done this before, leave it in a note in the comments. Would love to hear from you. What was that like for you as well? I've done it. It was amazing. I really enjoyed it. Should probably do it again, honestly. All right, verse 19. So Manoah took a kid with a meat offering. And remember, meat offerings are flour. It's grain that they're using for the meat offering. And offered it upon a rock unto the Lord. And took a kid, meaning like a goat or a sheep, basically, a baby animal. And the angel did wondrously, and Manoah and his wife looked on. So the angel did something, performed something, because he's offering his obligations to God. He's doing these sacrifices. They're following righteousness. The angel does something as well that's really amazing. This is getting into what was it the angel did. Verse 20, for it came to pass, when the flame went up toward heaven from off the altar, that the angel of the Lord ascended in the flame of the altar. And Manoah and his wife looked on it and fell on their faces to the ground. But the angel of the Lord did no more appear to Manoah and to his wife. Then Manoah knew that he was an angel of the Lord. So he's giving this, built an altar, he's offering sacrifices, and the angel kind of leaves through these big flames going up into heaven, kind of a thing. Whether that's literal, he got in the flames and then went up, or it looked as if he was, because maybe he was on the other side of the altar from them. And so as he arose in light, it kind of looked like he went up with the flames. We don't know for sure, but that's okay. It doesn't necessarily matter, but it was pretty spectacular. Verse 22, and Manoah said to his wife, we shall surely die because we have seen God. But his wife said unto him, if the Lord were pleased to kill us, he would not have received a burnt offering and a meat offering at our hands. Neither would he have showed us all these things, nor would at this time have told us such things as these. So he's like, oh my gosh, we're going to die because we've seen God. This is, the gods are going to punish us for seeing them because we can't know God, and we do know him, we do understand him better now. And she's like, look, if he was going to kill us, he would have. He wouldn't have gone through this great effort to tell us all these things and promise these things to us if he was going to kill us. He's like, yeah, okay, you're right. So there's, score one for women for having common sense and bringing that into the picture here. Verse 24, and the woman bare a son, and she called his name Samson. And the child grew, and the Lord blessed him. Now you can look up the word Samson in the Bible dictionary to get more as well. But it's fascinating when we look at this, that Samson's life, okay, angel pronounces him coming to a woman that is barren. He's going to be the savior of Israel and free them from bondage and things like that. So a lot of similarities to Samson's birth that resemble Christ's birth. So Samson can be a good example of the Savior for us to follow. And his whole life was supposed to be dedicated to following the commandments of God and doing what is right as well. And we're going to get into that in the next chapter to see more. Just as the last verse, the Spirit of the Lord began to move him at times in the camp of Dan between Zorah and Eshtaol. So even as a young child, he's getting promptings to go places and do things. So he's learning how to work with the Spirit, how to do things, which is cool. A lot of cool things we get to learn from him. So let's get into the next chapter, chapter 14, to see more about Samson's life and the choices that he makes. He is a chosen one to an extent, and the choices that he makes are still his. So let's see what he does with these choices. We'll see in the next chapter.